Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending where in the world you are at the moment. Greetings from Bangkok, Thailand, and welcome to the 30 minutes promoting unity in diversity with Wanny Angerer in moving culture. Our guest number 71 is Amy Dina from United States based in Thailand. Hello, Amy. How are you?
Hello, I'm doing really well. Thanks for having me on your live interview Unity Festival.
Amy, thank you so much for accepting the invitation. And it also is very much attuned with your art, with your creativity. So who is Amy Diener?
So I am Amy Diener. I'm an artist based in Bangkok for the past 8 years, originally from New York State. And I specialize in really colorful mandala dot paintings. And my story is very out. So I've had a long history of battling obsessive compulsive disorder. And I use my art as a coping mechanism and a way to spread awareness about mental health. So I consider myself like a mental health advocate, and I'm always out there trying to help other people to destigmatize in Asia.
Amy, when you talk about dealing with emotional issues, art is one of the most subtle and most effective tools. What can you tell us about the process?
So when you're creating art, especially when you're creating dot paintings, the process is a very mindful one. So you have to be paying attention to every single dot that you dip and you drop onto the surface. And if you do not pay attention, then your dots do not come out beautiful. So it really, really forces you to stay aware in the present moment and sort of forget about any anxiety or worries or stresses that you may have. And your mind sort of just becomes blank. And for me, I need that because my mind is always racing and I need a stillness. And painting is something that provides that for me.
So it sounds like your artistry is like active meditation.
Yeah, you could think of it like being in a flow state where all you do is focus on that one activity and nothing else really matters. You're not just sitting there and, meditating in a traditional sense, but you are doing it in a non-traditional sense, in an artistic way, through expression.
Amy, can you please tell us how was your childhood and how did art is so important for you in every aspect of it?
Sure. So since I was little, I was always really interested in art, specifically drawing and painting. But it wasn't until I turned to be a junior in high school where I really started to love it. And a lot of that had to do with the teachers and the mentors that I had that kind of inspired me to work hard and push forward with my passions. And the thing is, before that, like growing up as a child, I had a very, I lived in a middle-class family. I had quite a good relationship with my parents. As I got older, there were a lot of kind of small traumatic things that were building up over the years. And it was just like the way that other people would react to what I was doing in a kind of negative and demeaning way. And I don't want to go in too much detail about it because it's quite personal, but it sort of got embedded within me, the concept of if I forget something, I am going to be scolded at. And that really created an imprint in my life that when I turned 17 was the time when my OCD started to kick in. And from that trauma, I would freak out about forgetting things, and it sort of morphed into other things. And that's how my OCD started to like come to life. But art has been always one of those things that has helped me as one of my coping mechanisms, in order to sort of feel some sense of peace.
Amy, this is very amazing because you have managed to understand that adversity was your strongest asset, because you have become a very confident and a very rounded, like holistic person. So
Yeah.
you understand yourself a lot more, and you keep working on that process, you know, of connecting, like you say, connecting the dots, not only on your artistry, but in your life.
Exactly.
How do you connect, talking about dots, your life and education and your professional creative process and also your entrepreneurship setting?
Okay, so as Wanny said, so I'm an entrepreneur, I'm an artist, I'm an art educator, I'm a mental health advocate. So I sort of am a lot of things all in one, and it's all combined through the artwork that I do and the story that I tell. So when I am teaching children, I am teaching children dot painting, but I also teach kids based on a choice-based program where they get to choose their materials and what they love, because I'm always trying to push people to focus on their interests and their passions, because it's something growing up I was also focused on, and that really helped me. And so when I'm teaching, I am very student-centered and customized. And because when I'm an artist, I want to do what I want to do as well. I want to have the freedom to play and explore and create art that I want to create. And so I always make sure that that's at the core of what I do, and pushing in aspects of mindfulness and really paying attention to what you're doing, whether that's in my own work or encouraging that in the works of my students.
You are a real inspiration and a role model for a lot of people, because you're tireless. You are always in the move, and you're always innovating, and you don't take no for an answer. That is something that I have learned from you. And how do that work, Amy?
So I would call myself a hustler. So I hustle, and I am very persistent, and I keep moving forward, and I don't live with regrets. So one thing that I do specialize is in working with brands. So I collaborate with my designs to put my artwork on specific brands' products. And how I take no for an answer, well, I just keep emailing or calling and being, I like to call it my inner stalker self. I won't really give up until someone tells me absolutely no. And that's actually helped me. And now I work with 30 different brands because I follow up and I follow up, and I'm very persistent. And it's, you know, a lot of people, they just will ignore, but it's all about scalability. There's always going to be that 1 in 100 that just says, all right, we'd love to onboard you as an artist. And so I work with that concept of scalability. And I don't feel, if the brand doesn't respond to me or they reject me, I don't feel rejected. I just know that it has to do with the fact that my artwork might not fit with what they're doing at the moment, with their brand style, or they might not have an availability. So I just keep persisting. And I do that with other aspects as well. If someone's interested in my paintings, they show interest, I'll keep following up with them over time to see what's up.
Amy, you have understood that traveling abroad and connecting with people and also being disciplined and persistent have made you a very strong person. And you also are transferring that information to your students, because I also have the opportunity to meet you in a Food for Love event and then in a private workshop at your place. And I can tell from my personal experience, you know, that you are a very, very conscious person, committed, and you always take care of the people who is with you. You're there at the moment, you make people feel good, and you make people understand that they can do things. You empower the ones who are around you. Now that you look at your childhood and the Amy today, how do you feel about that transition?
I'm really happy with the transformation. To be honest, I never thought in a million years that I would be living in Thailand for 8 years. Now I'm 30 years old. I could never have imagined, but I think I've gotten pretty far, and I'm really happy at the point that I am at, like being 30. And I think the 30s are going to be really successful and really like inspirational time for me. I have a lot of projects coming up, a lot of things in the works that will be launching in the next few years. So I'm really excited about that, and I'm happy through the transformation until this point.
What can you tell to women out there? How do you see the role of women in art at the moment?
I think as women, we can feel really empowered. I mean, nowadays, you know, a woman can be a lady boss. They can totally be a lady boss in their own life as an artist, as an entrepreneur, and it's not really looked down upon. It depends on the culture, but especially in Thailand, women are sort of the bosses of, you know, they're the ones in the job position. So, I mean, power to us. I mean, I think we're living in a great time period. And yeah, I like to think about things positively. So
now going back to the health crisis, you know, you are so into the date, Amy, and I'm telling you, I admire you so much because you always know what's happening and you follow trends and you work very quick into placing your products in the market. So at the moment of the beginning of the pandemic, you created this beautiful face mask, you know, that actually are being very useful for a lot of people. And I'm one of your clients as well, you see, and they're so amazing.
So beautiful.
Yeah, they're so beautiful. Tell us about this project.
So for me, I am always trying to adapt and change to mold to the situation. And so when COVID happened, at first I was quite resistant about creating a mask just because I didn't want to manufacture anything or handle that because it is a big headache and a lot of work. But I said, you know what, I'm going to do it because this is a product that is in demand. It is a product that people want to buy, and it is a product that can help to protect you against the virus. So people were pushing me and I said, you know what, I'm just going to go for it. And I ended up producing almost 5,000 face masks with 11 different mandala designs. And to be honest, I've sold most of them. However, I think I got a bit too many, but I think within the next year or so, they're all going to be relieved of stock. But it has taught me that I actually don't like the process of handling manufacture. And since the mask, I've only taken a licensing route. And when I'm working with brands with art licensing, I am giving them the ability or the rights to use particular images of mine on specific products. And then the brand is the one who is responsible for creating the inventory, doing all of the QC, getting all of the samples, handling the entire production process, marketing it, distributing it, shipping it. I mean, as an artist, there's just so much I'm already doing. So it's nice to sort of outsource that and then just get a percentage of the sale. And that's how I've been able to scale with working with so many brands. Because after I get the deal, I'm not really doing so much. It's getting that deal. And then afterwards you give them the images and they're sort of like, they sort of take the role of, you know, onboarding you and whatnot. So yeah, I mean, the mask was a very good learning experience, and I'm really glad I did it because it also helped get my brand around. And I saw a lot of people wearing my face mask, like people I didn't know around the city, which was really cool. One time I stopped someone in one of the local cafes called Bartels in Sukhumvit, and I said, what? I was like, mask. And she was like, I was like, you're wearing my design. And then she cracked up. But yeah, I mean, we started talking and everything. So it was definitely a conversation starter. And yeah, so I don't live with regrets. I learn from them and I adapt.
You are also a very active advocate of mental health organizations and issues. Can you tell us something about that?
Yes, so I actually partner with a few different mental health nonprofits by giving a percentage of my art sales to these charity funds. One of them is ADA, Anxiety and Depression Association of America, and they've also featured me and my art like as an article to write, and so we can help to destigmatize mental health together. Another one that I will be working with very soon is Anxiety UK, and we are planning to do some dot painting lessons for people who sign up in a global scale online, as well as they're planning to feature me as well in their magazines. So there's a lot of cross-pollination there, so we can sort of help each other to spread the mission of awareness on mental health. And yeah, and I work with a few other organizations as well. So I'm always, you know, crossing over with that. And yeah.
Amy, you moved to Thailand 8 years ago. Tell us about your adjustment situation. How do you decide to come to Thailand? How it was to move to a new country with a different language and different culture? And how are you feeling now that you are practically inserted into the society?
Sure. So the concept of moving to Thailand started from actually finding out that my professor at the college I went to, SUNY New Paltz, had taught art in Honduras and Korea. And I didn't even realize that that was an option because I was getting my degree in art education. And I just assumed that I could only teach it in the United States. And when I heard about that, I got really excited because growing up as a kid and into like middle and high school, I was always sort of friends with the international school students. I was part of the ASF exchange program. I never really traveled anywhere, but I would always be interested in learning the language and the culture and chatting with all the international students. When I got into college, I lived with a French girl and a Spanish girl and a Japanese girl. So I was always interested in like travel, but I never really had the opportunity to go overseas. It was just more people coming to me. Now I wanted to go over to them. And so since I realized that there was this thing I could do, which was teach abroad, I ended up searching ways to do this. And one of them was to go to a job fair in Iowa in the United States, in the middle of nowhere, where they recruit teachers to teach overseas. And it's a big job fair. There's hundreds, if not like thousands of teachers who are applying and a ton of schools there. And Thailand, to be honest, it was just pictures I had seen and food that I had enjoyed over the years. And it just sounded like, in my 21-year-old self, a really cool place to go to. But to be honest, I didn't really know that much. I ended up going to the job fair and I ended up securing a position to teach art at the American School of Bangkok. And my position was to teach art on a cart, to go around to all the teachers and bring my art supplies and teach to the kids. And I said, you know what, I'm gonna take this opportunity and I'm gonna go. And I just went for it. To be honest, it was a culture shock at first, but I got used to it really quickly. I'm good at adapting to situations, and you know, I would make conversation with the Thai people. At first, I started to really learn the Thai language. I haven't so much since then. Since the first year, I can't say that I've improved so much in my Thai words, but I try my best. And yeah, I've just really enjoyed living here. And yeah, that's a little background on how I got here.
With your message, we also understand that communication not necessarily have to be with the language. It's non-verbal. You communicate with your art. And you have so diverse group of people from all over the world, including a lot of Thai people on your classes, because art is a universal language. Do you agree on that?
Yeah, 100%. Art, visual arts, dance, music, they're all, you know, visual languages that we can all comprehend. So even when I'm no longer with the American School of Bangkok full time, but when I was with them and I was teaching the kids, we had a huge Japanese population. And even if they didn't understand any English, I could still teach them art, and they could still understand, and they could still learn, and they could still express themselves, their creativity, and enjoy without knowing any English. So yeah, it sort of transcends everything.
The purpose of moving cultures, that is the social movement that I lead, is to promote unity in diversity and inclusion. And when we're talking about inclusion, sometimes people doesn't understand that there is a lot of issues that are not visible, like mental problems that can exclude people from certain activities in life. What can you tell me about your experience promoting unity in diversity and inclusion?
So in unity and diversity and inclusion within the mental health section, I would say the issue here is that when mostly like it's just integrated into the culture, especially in Asia, that, you know, if you have some mental health issue, that means you're crazy. That means you're a nutcase, right? That means that, you know, you can't really assimilate into society. And so there's that notion. I know that in Singapore, at least a few years back, if you tried to get a bank loan, they would deny you if they found out that you had seen a therapist. They would deny the bank loan. So it even went into the, you know, your full life. So the fact that, you know, that's crazy. No, but it's not crazy. Everyone goes through mental health issues. I'm sure 100% of society in varying levels goes through mental health issues. And there's really nothing to be ashamed at. The more ashamed you are at yourself, the less chance you are going to go and get help. And you can battle and you can overcome mental health issues. But by people constantly telling you that, you know, you're crazy or this or that, it doesn't help. So that's why I really try to promote to destigmatize it, because there's just a lot of stigma here. And like I said, we should not be ashamed. You know, we should triumph over anxiety.
Yes, and when you say that people use the word crazy in a negative way, when the reality is that crazy is related to something that has superpowers. You know, usually only people who has the capacity to deal with creative and social complex way, of course, they will not fit into a very standardized setting, because standard means doing more or less the same. So any person who is doing something that is completely different or unusual, they're gonna be called crazy. And now that you check on history, all these crazy people have made possible that technology and also very important elements in society are now taking place. What do you think about that?
I agree. So like, there's this notion that like if you have some mental health issue, you're being possessed by the devil, or you see a ghost, you know, like what you were talking about. There's totally that notion of that supernatural. And we just got to keep what I think is we just have to keep talking about it and creating awareness about it until eventually, hopefully it dissolves. And if we don't talk about it, then there won't be any change. So I think it's really instigating the conversation about it, for sure. And that's the starting point, always the conversation, and that conversation really needs to happen.
Yeah, and it's also related to connection, because like we talked at the beginning, when you start to check into yourself and learn about yourself and your strengths and weaknesses, a process moves into a different direction. Then we have the collective memory. And I don't doubt that a lot of artists and a lot of creative people is connected with some energy of other very wise people from the past. Because sometimes you wonder, how can I do these things? You know, how do this information comes to me in such an easy way? So not everyone is being chosen to be in a position like you are, Amy. You know, because that's to be brilliant, you know, and I have to congratulate you for being the amazing person you are, the great things you are doing, and because you celebrate life and you include people into that celebration. Can you please send a message to the new generation in the society?
I'm sorry, a message?
Yeah, a closure message.
Oh, a closure message. Now, I just got me thinking about Bill Gates, how he went to so many people to pitch Microsoft. And in the end, it was 1 out of 100 that actually listened to his presentation, right? So sometimes the people with the craziest ideas or whatnot are the ones that can, you know, create a catalyst for change and triumph over things to move forward. I mean, you can think about Bitcoin, all these things that people thought were crazy now have become mainstream, right? So for me, I don't look at anything. I look at everything with a grain of salt, but I always want to investigate what people say, because there might be a chance that it could turn into something absolutely amazing. And I do have a little bit of FOMO, fear of missing out. So I am always looking into it to see what can happen. So I guess my message is, don't look the other way. Always do some research and keep moving forward and be persistent. And we're all in this world together. So let's stay unified and connected.
Amy, thank you. Thank you so much for promoting unity in diversity and for your love for humanity, because you do really love people. And that means that you really love yourself. So I wish you all the best and looking forward to see you in the near future. We are so close in the same city, and we haven't been able to see each other for a while. And keep shining and keep.
Thank you so much for having me. I super appreciate it. And I hope to see you face to face soon.
Thank you, Amy. Blessings. Sawadee ka.
Sawadee ka.